Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Introduction with Eoinmcminis. This is going to be a different podcast tonight because Casey might be on time, which I highly doubt, but we'll soon see. I hope you're all doing well this Wednesday. Hope the weather's pretty decent where you are. It's been pretty pish here the last few days, and I blame that for all the bragging I did when I was away on holiday. But it is what it is. Alright Ian, how you doing? Alright, another pile of shame. How you doing, pal? Thanks for joining us. I'll just send you a request now, Ian. Chat. How you doing, pile of shame? How's your Wednesday going? Hope you're well.
Oh, here, Kildare. Let's turn that one around.
There's the main man himself, a rather ginger fellow. So he must be from Kildare in Ireland.
By the by, not too shabby with the name, but it's Eoin.
Oh, when my son said that, because my son was telling me to say things to you, so he said I should say Conis Atatu, which means how are you? And then he was saying all the usual, so you should say him Duncan Pope Mahog, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what that means. Like, fucking stop transfer.
Pope Mahone, no, yeah, sure.
Pope Mahone.
Yeah.
He's his Irish leaving cert oral exam tomorrow. So he was swatting up in some Irish today.
Lower to Gert, man, fair. I suppose we talking Donegal Irish now.
No. We've been here 18 years and he'd been here. Oh my God, Casey's actually 1 minute late, which is brilliant.
1 minute and still should be 60 push-ups.
Yeah.
No. Don't come at me with your ex-army malarkey. I'm not here for it.
Aye. Push-ups are good for you. Suffering is good for the soul.
Yeah.
I already suffer enough by doing hobbying because there's the word pain in painting.
So Owen, thanks very much for joining us. That's the last time I call you Owen. Because you're an ex-officer, I'm going to call you Rupert for the rest of the show, because that's how we roll. So for anybody that doesn't know, you just give yourself a wee introduction on who you are and why you're so ginger.
I'm so ginger because my family tree is fairly circular, mostly based in the Midlands of Ireland. I'm Eoin. I make games and paint shit. Have I got anything cool to show you? You might. Look, I'm Eoin. I make this thing. This is me. I make this. That's why I presume people want to yammer on to me about whatever the fuck they want to yammer on to me about. We ran a table, a demo table, and a sales table at Salute last weekend, where I met Casey. That was quite something.
Out of an Irish person's perspective, how drunk was he?
Well, he came across fairly sober to me now, a bit excitable, but to be honest, anytime somebody meets me the first time, they get very excitable. I am that kind of person.
I doubt that.
I had started sobering up by that point, I will admit, because they started on the tannoy 5 minutes and everyone gets out. And I was like, oh. And as soon as I left, the fresh air hit me, the hangover hit me, and I was horrendous.
You don't want that. You got to go straight at it. So, yeah, also, I think Casey bumped into my wife first, and she was just like, the fuck is Ian? What's he on about? I'm like, so you remember?
That's Rob. Rob was just shouting, Ian! Ian! I was like, I don't think that's how you pronounce it, mate. Ian! All right.
Yes, it's pronounced Ripper. Ripper.
Look, I wasn't a tan officer. Like, I don't appreciate this. I never went to no Santos nonsensical.
But you did spend a bit of time in Santos, did you or did you not?
We went there for a competition for a weekend, and we won a weekend.
Time in Santos, so therefore you're now a glorified Ripper. It's just, listen, I don't make these rules up. I just follow them as strictly as I can.
100%. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. You can't make any rules for anyone. Of course, this is correct.
Exactly. Not in this. Not in this day and age. So for people that for joining, this is Eoin/Rupert, and I'm a bit disappointed. I thought his last name was McMinis, but alas, it isn't. So the first question we asked everybody is, what got you into hobbying? What age were you, and who was the bastard that did it to you?
Peter Jackson was the bastard that did it to me, and it was the day after the Fellowship of the Rings came out in cinema in Ireland. So myself, my dad, and my brother, we went to see it in View, Liffey Valley. And then the next day, my mum and my sisters were going to Blanchardstown Shopping Centre. There was a Games Workshop in Blanchardstown Shopping Centre that had the metal minis of the Fellowship of the Ring sitting there in the window, and I was like, I want that now. Like the mini side of things, but for wargaming and all that jazz and making games and fucking playing with toy soldiers, I started that when I was 2 or 3. My granddad showed me he'd built a wooden fort and he had some plastic soldiers, like they all get 100 of them in a bag for a pound type jazz, and he showed me them, and apparently I started picking them up and firing them. I was like, come on, we'll fucking fire things at each other. So I've always done that as far as I remember. Like I always wanted to join the army. My godfather was an officer in the army. Like history, I was bound for this TISM train from birth. I think no skipping it.
So, how this is something really wanted to pick your brains on Saturday about all of this, but I said to you, I was where you're coming on. I don't want to burn through all my great questions with you in the flesh and then have to repeat myself. And we both end up looking at each other like, we've done this already. Why are we doing it again? And I've still got my sticker. Look at that.
Yep.
How do you approach creating a miniature game? Because obviously, having played them for years, having been into them for years, what sort of sparks in your head where you sit down and it's like, I'm going to make my own one?
Well, I've kind of always pricked about rules, in fairness. I haven't got a huge pile of patience for things that are like complex for no real reason. It just annoys me. And then for this rule set in particular, so for Famous by Our Swords started out as a skirmish game in the Irish War of Independence in the 20s called Ambush.
Okay.
Designed that because my wife is an NCO in the Army Reserve in Ireland, and she and I like she loves playing chess, mad for chess, loves it, and I like playing war games. And I used to always try to get her to like play 40k, play Hail Caesar, play whatever, and she was like, she didn't like 40k because there's too much stupid shit that happens between you and your models.
Yep.
And there's all fucking superpowers. Like, this is retarded. Like a gun is a gun. It does what it does. Let's rock on. Like stuff like Hail Caesar because with Hail Caesar and Black Powder, I don't know if you played them, but those command rolls are like, I've sent a courier off to my unit of cavalry and it has to charge forward and attack something, and then you roll a bad command roll and they just sit there scratching their bollocks. Like, well, what the fuck is this stuff? It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to be fighting someone, you're there to fight. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
Just don't fuck it like. And she found that annoying. And I wasn't the biggest fan of them either. So I was like, all right, I tell you what, give me a month. I'll come up with something. We'll play it together. Because this was during the lockdowns. And we were going a bit mad. I was like, give me a month to come up with something. We'll try it together. See how you get on. And she said, all right, fair enough. So I went away, and the idea was, so Ambush is fundamentally unplayable for anybody who hasn't a fairly serious grasp on how tactics kind of work. It is in no way something that I could ever give to anyone else realistically without being there to explain it, because you start off this game starts way before you even look at miniatures. The game has started. So there's a map that I have. I've done 10 different maps of like different parts of Ireland where ambushes occurred historically and where the road networks make sense and where the terrain makes sense. They're in grids. And so the game starts with, I give the British player an operations order, and I go, right, you have to bring your convoy with these supplies from here to there. These are the roads that are usable by you. This is the roads that are not usable by you because of whatever. And then the IRA commander, I'm like, right, you have so many people in your local company, you so much in the flying column, you need to plan your ambush. They go away, they give me back operations orders with grid orders and with grid references and what they want to do and when they want to do it. Then I take that in, I start plotting that out in the map, and then we start playing it as in, okay, on this day you've taken this road and no ambushes happened, and then eventually the ambush will be sprung, and it's a whole complicated mess. But that complication is not particularly complicated for me and Sue because we kind of get how all this stuff works. And the actual game itself is dead easy. But once you get past all that, actually playing the game, very simple, because it's just, here's your shooting skill, you roll a d12, is it that score or lower? Yes, good, no, you miss. If you hit someone, they're going to get wounded. If they get wounded twice, they're dead. And you're just trying to suppress people, fix them in place, flank them, and kill them. Dead. No messing. But anyway, that was a winner. We enjoyed playing that. And then one day, if I recall correctly, what happened was Susan had been cheeky, and she assumed that I was going to launch an ambush, where I did in fact launch an ambush. And she had attached a 4-man section to kind of scout the road on the left-hand side. And one of her black and tans walked straight into, like literally straight into one of my flying column volunteers. And I was like, oh, best make up a melee score, or some sort of quick melee system. We did that. I was like, holy fuck, that worked. That was fun. And then she's like, yeah, it kind of did. And she has a thing for like goblins and greeblies and monsters and shit, and she loves The Witcher. And she was like, Owen, neuron activation happening here, so hang on. And then we worked out that if we had a fun melee system, a fun shooting system, that was easy to learn, I was like, give me another week, we could have. And then, yeah, we played the first game of Famous Fire Swords, as the two of us, and then I got two of my friends involved to try it. We played a session on Tabletop Simulator, and that was very humbling because they busted the game straight open like that. So, yeah, well, no, that's rough. And then, from there it was like, all right, well, refine it, play test it. But to go back to your question about, how do I approach it?
Yeah.
Entirely frank, as I said earlier on, it was enormous officer energy. I was like, all these other dickheads have made games. I can do a better job.
Yeah.
And behind every good officer, there's an even better NCO. So I'm pretty sure that your missus has done 90% of the good work, and you're just taking the last 10%.
Well, to give her full credit now, she did do the graphic design for the printed book one. She did an awful lot of that. We had a great guy, Little War Stories WIP, with Little War Stories WIP here. He kind of took on doing the initial designs, and then he was like, all right, if you two are going to make a go of this, I'm not going to be your fucking crutch no more. Like, he can do it. And then Susan took on that. So all that techno wizardry bullshit, fucking smooth brain over here, I cannot be dealing with that. I can make shit up, and I can make a fantasy setting, and I can write shit, no problem. But all that techno shit, no.
Yeah. I have to say, like, when you sent me over the digital copy, I haven't shared it with Don yet, and I'll send him over. I'll send him over to it if you're happy with it for me to do so. But what really struck me was it felt like a proper throwback to how rulebooks used to be. The design of it. You've got you're flicking through it. You've got all your lore in there that you've created. You've got your illustrations, which I think are amazing. You've got all the pictures that you guys have managed to put in there, and it's really nicely put together. What was the sort of design process for that? Because that sort of got to also be like, you're looking at what other people are doing, and like you say, in your mind's eye, you're like, I can do a better job than half of these dickheads.
In terms of like how it was structured, basically like my favorite rule books I've ever read is the 4th edition 40k rules and the codices that came with that, because they're kind of mental. Like they're not super logically ordered. So you kind of have, here's lore, cool. Then here's some like pictures and descriptions of guns. Right. Oh, the weapon rules was next. No. Here's some special characters. Right. Okay. And then here's how like a Space Marine chapter is. Right.
Yeah.
Then there's a page like, here's all the stuff you can give all your squads. And the rules there? No, rules not there. Right. Okay. But it's a kind of a thing where like, but you're always wanting to flick over and keep reading because like something's coming.
Yeah.
So with these, I was like, I want to give the lore straight away because, funny enough, when I was originally thinking of sharing Famous Fire Swords and making it a thing, it didn't have a setting. It was just mechanics. And that's it. I was like, this is a good game system. Do what you want with it. And I was talking to my friend Chris, and he's like, yeah, oh, and that's incredibly fucking stupid. No one's going to pay that any attention. It's going to get robbed by someone else, and then they're just going to use it, and you're going to have nothing. So don't do that. That's idiocy. And he was right. It was fucking idiocy. So then I was like, right, let's make this lore and get people hooked on that, and that's why the lore is first. And then after that came the rules. I don't know if that answers your question happily or not, but
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And I'll pass on to back to Duncan in a second. I am just going to say, fuck you, you Geordie bastard, to the chats. But moving on. With the one thing that struck me in your rule book especially was just the simple paragraph of, and I'm summarising this. This is a game. It's meant to be fun. Don't argue over the rules. If you can't decide what rule takes precedence, roll a dice, sort it out that way. How important is it to yourself? Because obviously, based describing how this sort of the game arose, is it to pass that message on of this is a fun thing to do? You can make it competitive if you want, but at the end of the day, it's a game.
It's I think that the big thing is to, like, nowadays you get a lot of people who maybe forget that online gaming is not the same as tabletop gaming. I mean, obviously we all know the jokes about tabletop gamers and painters and all the jazz. We're all fucking spurgy people who can't interact socially. But realistically, if you're going to have any kind of fun and any kind of success playing tabletop games, you have to be able to talk to other people, look them in the eye, shake their fucking hand, not be a dickhead 24/7. You can't carry on like you carry on about playing a PC game, because who the fuck would play with you? Nobody. You should be a cunt. So those paragraphs are just a fiery way to say, don't be a cunt in a game. And if you're playing it, even if you're playing a serious game, like that in itself is a fucking stupid idea. But even if you're playing a serious game and you're being super competitive about it, okay, that's fine. Like I'm genuinely, if I'm playing something, I want to win. I fucking hate losing. I don't care what the fuck I'm playing, even if I'm playing like 18s with my cousin, who I'm teaching, like, here's how you throw dice, and I'm getting him used to the hobby. I don't even like losing throwing 18s with my cousin. I hate it. It drives me mad. It'll stick in my head. But I'm not a cunt about it. It's not his problem that I'm a lunatic. Right? The thing there about, like, this is a game of plastic soldiers. It's the same thing as M's from On Dark and Wing. She's a great word for it. We're just playing war dice, boys. It's not real. No one's going to get hurt. I used to be, in fairness, before I broke my back, I used to be much worse. But when I broke my back in the army, I was kind of like, all right, that's actually what serious shit does be like. No need to sweat the small things no more, boys. So I just don't bother.
Yeah, but
And
like,
then
as you're saying, like, I think Casey, I'm going to speak on behalf of Casey here because he's got a young son and I've got 4 children. I don't let them win at anything because I fucking hate losing, and there's no point trying to teach them that everyone's a winner. No, there's a winner and there's a loser. Like, we have a family Monopoly game once a year if the kids are over from England. Like, my wife and the oldest child doesn't play it because they think we're all fucking idiots. And they've only in the last 2 years caught on that I was the banker and I was always winning because I was the banker. And now they've caught on to that. Like, they're now 25. I think they were 23 and 22 when they caught on this one. And even me and we had a poker night at my house a few months ago, and I put my son out, and I was bastion and taking his money off him, and he was absolutely raging. But I'm a competitive wee shite as well. Don't like to have other people win. But then once the game's finished, it's done. I'll shake your hand and swagger off your mum behind your back. That's just how I roll. Do you know what I mean? But
Does that go to your son?
oh yeah. Also swag off his mum behind his back, and then she beats the shit out of me. But see, as obviously that game, how was your game received when you were down in Southwark? Was there much interest in it?
yes, it was a very interesting experience for us because we'd done a small local convention before in Limerick here called the Conclave, run by a game shop here called the Gathering, and that was really surreal for me because basically up until then the people that I'd interacted with who played my game were Susan, my friend Chris, me, and my friend Paddy, and there's 4 of us. I know there's other people playing it, and it had kind of been on Ko-Fi and whatnot. There have been a few sales like Grant, but I brought it there, and we had Clash of Banners and Famous by Our Swords, the big battle and the small battle game, played on the same table. So we had the battle systems terrain walls where, in an L shape, and we had a little town in behind that. And the whole scenario was there was an attacking army had to breach the walls or seize the gate. There was 2 skirmish forces inside. One had to secure the gate, one had to defend the gate. Just, it was fun. And we had at one stage we had 12 people actively playing the game on the table. Because the way it's set up, like the way Clash of Banners is set up, it's easy to make multiplayer because basically you have an army commander, then 2 to 6 divisions, depending on how big you want it to be. And so you just say to somebody, do you want to play this game? Cool. There's your division, hop in. And with the skirmish game, it's even easier because you just say, all right, cool. This person wants to jump in. Here's your 3 mercenaries. What side do you want to be on? Fly away. Have fun. So we took that same idea and concept to Salute. And I thought, great, people play away. And, a good few people did play. Actually, a funny anecdote on the side, I'll crack on this in a second, but a funny anecdote on the side was a lovely man from Sweden came over. I was like, do you want to throw some dice? He's like, yes. Cool. Right, come in here. And I got him to play Clash of Banners, and he was playing a guy who come over called Chris. And both of them got it fairly quickly, but Thomas, the Swedish guy, he got it like that. And he, in fairness by then, he absolutely bet the shit out of Chris. He did a great job playing. And he was wearing a t-shirt with, the Gripen, the Swedish fighter jet on it. And, he wanted to buy the book, so we were walking back to the sales table, make conversation. Oh, do you like planes? He goes, oh, the Gripen. I've do it for 10 years. It was tolerable, yes. And then I was like, hang the fuck on. Are you a fighter pilot? What the fuck? Never met one before. And then he bought the books. And he got me to sign his Clash of Banners to say that he won because he was a good officer. And he's like, I'm going to use this to annoy people. And then he came back 10 minutes later with his 2 mates, and they bought the 3 books. And one of them bought K-Cock. But that was like the top tier, that kind of thing. It happened a few times. It was great when it did. But a lot of people, I don't know why, they were very nervous to try it in case it'd be bad. I'm not sure if it's fucking bad at something. Like I tell you what, I'm fucking dog shit at speaking Polish. You know why? I've never learned to do it.
Yeah,
it's not gonna hurt you. But
it's a fair point, and you did raise it on a day that there seemed to be that bit of trepidation about it. I think. And I will say, I didn't only notice that at your table. I noticed it at a couple of others because there was the Fallout game on demo. And I witnessed some people standing there. And obviously Fallout's been big recently. Everyone's loved it. But when the person who had the game was like, oh, yeah, look, it's really simple. You do this, this, this. And people just sort of standing there like,
sorry.
Yeah.
The guy in the chat there, Terrence. Well, man, Terrence. He was one of the people with us. He was a tanker in the army in the stateside. Great lad. He was one of the people on our dinner table. There was myself, Susan, Chris, and Terence.
No, you can't. Don't worry. But yeah, that sort of trepidation, I think, seemed to follow around not just your table, but a couple of others as well. And I think that's something that maybe the bigger companies have an issue with, where they've cornered the market so much. When you're trying to introduce a new system to people, they can do that. Well, I already do this with Warlord, I do this with Games Workshop. How simple is it? How hard is it? And because they push now the competitiveness of it, I don't think people are willing to pick up new game systems that could just be fun that willingly.
Yeah, it was a straight. We heard a comment a lot, so we get people coming over to the table. They take a look through the books and they go like, what was the big question? It was like, oh, what dice is it based off? Like, what's the dice system? What dice? Like, oh, well, what's the dice rolls? Oh, D12. Oh, I play D6 games. And I remember at one stage, Susan said to somebody, well, you could just roll 2D6 if you like. And your man goes, that's a whole different, statistically, that's a different probability curve. And she's like,
yes.
Yes.
I think, yeah, it's mad how a different dice can just change people's perspective. At the end of the day, a dice is a dice. It's there as a tool. Why are you going to be scared to use a slightly different tool? I don't know.
I mean, listen, I'm far too fucking stupid to be wound up by these things. Like, absolute smooth brain going on here. I have the gift of a brass neck and a smooth brain. It's a good combo.
So how long have you spent making the game? Like, do you spend a lot of time each day, or are you working on other things just now?
Oh well, I mean, I have a job. I have a normal job. This isn't my job, but I started in 22, I think. Like, I started being serious with it, about trying to give it to other people and make it into a playable state Actually, I have something I mentioned about props earlier on. I'll show you a funny prop. So, Clash of Banners, the big army game, that, I don't know if you can see it properly, this is how Clash of Banners started in my chicken shit dog scratch writing. But this is how it started. And the idea was like, oh, yes, we will have grids, and we will have this and that and the other thing. And that happened. I've been in a meeting for an hour and a half listening to two Yanks and a guy from Cork bollock on about some bullshit and work about tables or something. And I was like, lads, what the fuck was going on? And then I was kind of sitting there and I zoned out altogether. And I was like, yes, mass battles, that's how it worked. And then I wrote it down. That was it there. And then from there, that's snowballed pretty quickly. But the thing I find harder, right, the thing that takes a long time is to get the lore to make sense. Because I've obviously written all this in English, because apparently it's more marketable. But I found creative writing in English is tricky. It's not as easy, I find, as Irish. It's kind of harder to explain. In my head, it's harder to explain when somebody's talking to someone else, how they're talking, how they're feeling, all that jazz. It's just difficult. So that's taken quite a while to get used to. I think it's better now. I think the lore in book 2 and the new lore in book 1 is better than the original lore in book 1. I think it's more readable and more fun. But that's hard. That's taken a while. Coming up with the rules is easy enough. The basic rule system's handy enough. The difficult bit is making it work. So the other guy who came with us, Chris, and Terence as well, are great at poking holes and things. Like, they'll have a crack at the game and they're like, all right, what's a great example is the first version of Clash of Banners had no armor saves whatsoever. The purpose of armor was to make you better at fighting, right? And Chris was sitting there. He was like, yes. And so he just brought like a whole army of crossbowmen and longbowmen and just like,
It was like Agincourt all over again.
A lot fucking worse than Agincourt. Because at that stage as well, he actually had very few longmen. He mostly crossbowmen because they didn't have to reload or slow down, or it was just done. It was like, right, must change that. And then with the dreaded for 2 or 3 test runs, cavalry was just the shit, and you couldn't really deal with them. Or what was another funny one was this is me being a dickhead actually. So I had a big regiment reduced to 1 model, and then that model charged the rear of one of Chris's units and immediately did 6 plus D6 automatic wounds. And Chris was like, that's bullshit. What the fuck is going on there? So I was like, yeah, that probably shouldn't happen. So there's but it's the testing. To answer your question properly, it's the testing is what takes a long fucking time.
And how good is it when you have like a mate like that sees a flaw but doesn't tell you and then shows you in the playthrough of the game to make it more recognisable than trying to explain it to you? How more important is that?
That is fantastic. Like, genuinely, it's what's the phrase? Like, it takes a village to make a baby, right? Or not to make a baby, but to raise a baby.
Yeah.
But it has taken an entire crew of semi-autistic weirdos in my house to make this game. But it is great. Like a good example as well. So to me, right, all this jazz just makes sense, obviously, because I made it up. So it's in my head. I'm like, it's easy. It makes perfect sense. Nobody can be confused. And Terence had a great idea our last planet session before we came over to Salute. He's like, we need cheat sheets so that we can just explain to somebody very quickly, well, this is how combat works, this is how this works, this is how that works.
Yeah.
And I was like, do we though? And everyone was like, fucking yes. What the fuck is wrong with cheat sheets? So we made cheat sheets and they were good. But no, it's vital. I could not. Any wanker who ever tells you I made this thing all on my own is absolutely open. Either the thing is shit or they're lying. There's no two ways about
it. One thing that really struck me as well is that although you've got, I'm not going to try and pronounce the names because I will slaughter them. I was bad enough trying to pronounce your name, so I'm not even going to do that. Britpop, yeah. So your character, you've done your lore, you've got your character minis, which I think look amazing. But then for the rest of the armies, when you're saying to people, it's just a case of, do you like a company? Go out and buy that company's stuff. You don't feel like you obviously you've worked all this work into creating the rules. Creating a mini line is something that, could be 10, 20 years down the future, maybe sooner than that, depending on how big the game gets. But again, like thinking of making it fun, how important is it that you're actually saying to people, like you did in the rulebook, here's where we got these minis. As long as they're sort of painted up to look kind of like they fit in, do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's funny. I found when I started wargaming and stuff, when I started collecting Games Workshop and all that jazz, like it felt to me things were a lot more imaginative. People were a lot more happy to get really into, like, all right, like my second collection was like the Dark Angels, and I'd read the fourth edition rule book. They had a whole thing about like the heraldry being important to them and all this different symbology. So I used to prick around with that because I thought history was interesting. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to base this heraldry system on, I think it was like Byzantine Greeks, and they'd all, like, I wasn't good at painting. It looked like shit, but I had fun with it. And a lot of people did the same kind of stuff, and things were very creative, and it was all quite imaginative. And there's this whole vibe of they're your guys, it's your thing, tell your story, cool. And so that's what I'm trying to do, like with Famous Fire Swords. Yeah, I'd like to have more minis from the setting, but not like, I don't want to have a whole line of stuff, because I want, like, I have an aesthetic in my head and a vibe in my head, and I like that. But also, the world is very unsketched out. It's fairly bare bones, and that's not because I'm too fucking lazy to make it up, though. But no, it's mostly because, like, I want people to make their own thing. I want them to to have the imagination to be like, okay, well, in this part of the setting down here, actually this city works like this, and they make their armor like this, and they prefer these kinds of weapons, and this is their culture, and blah blah blah. Cool, fucking brilliant. Give me more of it. Eat it all up. In the first book, I'll show you here a sec. So here, there's a whole section here, which is all different companies of renown and different mercenaries that are famous, right? All these things, they're all stories and cultures made up by people that I know from Instagram. None of these are done by me.
Cool.
So I had a competition. I gave people some prizes, and I was like, yeah, put some. And the best 5, they're going to be our starting 5 cultures. And then I worked all of them into this truly awful map that I made. But I worked them all in there. They all exist in the setting. Knock yourself out. Because the idea is it's not a computer game. I don't care what minis you use. I don't care how you paint them. I mean, I'd rather not see some unpleasant real life ideological symbols in my game, but it's not for me to decide what people do with it. And just go nuts, do your thing.
That's something we've had sort of said before as well, where you're sort of mentioning obviously what you're playing around with your Dark Angels, you're building your lore and stuff. That with the bigger companies nowadays, there seems to be sort of a sense of they're writing their lore, they're doing everything to sort of push profits. Let's face it, at the end of the day, that's the thing, because it's not just a case of here's a rule book with some background in it, but here's a whole line of books that tell you the history and this is where the game's going. And it really destroys the old sort of concept of, what they call it, headcanon, making it up as you go along, that sort of stuff. Do you feel that it's something that has sort of sucked the fun out of wargaming a little bit? Because like you say, you went out on Instagram, you've done what you've done, and you're just allowing people to sort of say, have a bit of fun, do you want, here's what the setting looks like, play around. And when you've got bigger companies that like, this one's pink because we say it's pink, you have to play it pink. Is it sort of it just sort of ruins it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a logical perspective, it makes sense for them because they've got their big IPs to protect, or they've got fucking shareholders to make happy or whatever, and that's G. But like, the only shareholder in this crowd is me, and I want to see more people have more fun doing their thing. Like I keep saying it again, but these aren't fucking video games. Like, nobody should feel constrained about. What did somebody tell me before? I got into play the one and only time I went to play Warhammer of late. I had my Dark Angels, and I had I have got an up to date. Well, I played at 9th edition, so I had a 9th edition up to date Dark Angels army. It's like a half battle company, a demi company as it were. And somebody was telling me about like how my iconography is incorrect. I said, first, dude, this stuff, these water slides, I think might be older than you. Secondly, how the fuck is it incorrect? None of this is real. Thirdly, shut the fuck up. Your army isn't even painted. I couldn't even tell you if yours looked right or not. It's not painted. So wait. Which went down like a lead balloon. You know, whatever. Like, these aren't fucking video games. Throw out a bit of imagination. Do your thing. Have fun. That's the point. If you're not doing that, everyone's wasting their fucking time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing as well. Like, I know when I'm painting Death Guard, and the way I look at my Death Guard, it's my own lads. Like, it's their own company. They've got their own lore, and there's a reason why they're Death Guard. And at one point, I was painting a small amount of Dust Warriors, who would have became Death Guard, and they kind of get separated. And I think I ended up giving the Marines to Casey then. But the way I was painting them up was that they were separated from Mortarion, and they were trying to get vengeance and kill as many Death Guard as possible. And they never recruited, so when their numbers died out, they were fighting down to a kind of last man type thing. And I think that's where like people need to get back to their own lore and make it up in their own heads. Because you look as though you're probably a shade over 25 at best with that beard. So you're probably one of the later people that probably had fighting fantasy novels back in the day. I don't know if they had books back in Ireland then, but if you went to see Lord of the Rings, I'm pretty sure that you did. But the old fighting fantasy novels where you made up your own character and you were like basically dictating your story through whatever page Ian Livingstone or Peter Jackson decided you were to go to. Is that how you feel about your game? Is that you can, if you get your own guys, you can make up your own lore, and that's half the fun?
Yeah, the character sheets for Clash of Banners and for Famous Fire Swords, they have two sections. One is like your origin, so that's where is this character origin from? What's their culture like? How they react to what's their personal specific story, and that's their origin. And then there's another one called background, and background is like, well, what have they done to this point? How do they handle things? What for the regiment, like what's their battle honors list? Have they been in a lot of fights? Are they brand new? Are they this? Are they that? Are the other? I've got tables in both books that you can roll on to like generate it, because some people maybe they kind of struggle sometimes, or they feel like they want a bit of framework before making something up. So I've got tables in both books you can roll on, and that'll help you generate a story or a backstory for them. And I think those things they're really important, because as well, like, I don't know, is it just me or not, but when I'm sitting down making my dudes, so like there was 279 models on the table for the Clash of Banners and Famous Fire Swords demos, and when I was sitting down painting and making all of them, every single one of them, even like the randomers and the pike blocks or the random crossbowmen, they all had a backstory in my head. They all had a backstory. They were all posed to look a certain way, like they were my dudes, every single one of them. I know where they all go and how they should all look because they're my dudes. So I feel like I got a thing with them, not a bond. That's a weird word to describe, but you know what I mean. Like there's a thing, there's a rapport, maybe. I don't know, whatever the fuck the word you want to use is. But there's this thing where they're more than just bits of plastic. It's suddenly like it's a dude with a story. That's important now. So like I don't want Roger to die in that pipe block. I'm going to look after that pipe block because he's only new and he's only learning, and he's after shitting his pants, his little brown stain in his pants, he shit himself.
Do you know what that reminds you know what that reminds me of? Did you ever remember the game Cannon Fodder?
Oh yes.
And
yeah.
And if you had a guy that you leveled up to general and he died, you were gutted. Yeah. And you'd always put in the new private because he was inexperienced and he didn't matter as much as Jules or Dave or Ralph. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if Ralph died, the game was over for me.
We had an experience that's recently actually. So every Thursday I run an RPG campaign in my house, and I can see he's here. So one of the guys, Luke, his character, whose name was Father Boots, got brutally murdered in the middle of a graveyard at night time. Now, a bit of backstory to what happened. I was just being a mean GM. So there was an infestation attacking this town. All the dead people for miles around were, rising up out of their graves. And my intrepid, brave, intelligent party, like, the thing to do is let's go to the graveyard and camp there overnight. And I 2 or 3 times said, "Are you sure this is really what you want to do? Is this really?" Like, "Yeah, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this." And they died. And like good mercenaries, his comrades came back and looted his.
Aye. Well, it wouldn't be a raiding party or Irish if you didn't dip your pals' pockets.
Hey, that's big talk coming from a Scottish boy. All right, you raided our culture now to grab your shitey, peaty, whiskey bullshit.
Listen, don't chat shite with the fucking proper 12. Your country is made proper 12 with Conor McGregor, and that ends all arguments with anything.
No, it doesn't. I have seen and smelt, but I wouldn't drink, plenty of that nasty Scotch shit you people do be making as well. So we'll not have this now.
Yeah, but that's just for the tourists. We keep the proper stuff.
Same as proper 12 is only for fucking Yanks with masculinity issues.
That point is very fair point. I'm staying out of this one. You two are not.
And boy, you can sit out of it for a while if we're talking about whiskey.
This is typical from a man who's got roots in Mayo. He'll just sit on the fence and just keep out it.
Standard. Yeah, you say that. I actually did a bit of digging, and going back to your ambush game a minute ago, like I found out the other day that the town where my dad's family came from actually had an ambush in it. And for a moment, I was like, "Poor boys."
Was it Tormakedy?
It was Tormakedy, yeah.
Like, that's actually one of the original 10 maps for ambush is that area.
There you go.
And have you ever thought of bringing that game out in the 4?
So Susan is adamant because Susan prefers, even still, she prefers board games to full-on tabletop games, and she's like, "I believe in you, Eoin." I don't know why, but she's like, "I believe in you, Eoin, and you can make a board game of ambush." And I theoretically, maybe we could, but I don't have the money to make a board game because they're very expensive. You need to have all the bits.
It's a tough one as well, isn't it? Just because of the subject matter, It's no. Let's not beat about the bush. Like everyone can sit there and play World War II games because the good guys won, and then there's always some bullshit about the Irish Civil Wars, the ambushes, and even up to the Troubles. There's always some bullshit reason. The British will pipe up and fucking ruin stuff. Like my mum's granddad was in the Irish Army back in the 20s, and like you see the picture of him standing tall, he's got his uniform on and everything. It's a wicked picture, but he has seen some shit at some point. And like it's something that my family are proud of, but at the same time, they don't harp on about it. They pipe it down because they live in England. They don't want to be going around like, "My granddad beat the shit out of yours, you black and tan bastard," and stuff like that. But even is even that little bit of shame of the black and tans, because it's something that isn't taught in English schools. So I think I would love to see it. I think more should be done around that sort of stuff, but it's a very fence. You've got to be a little bit like, "Ooh."
I would be straight up with you there now, Casey. I am so far away from that fence, it's not even funny. That is me in the slightest. I could not care less. I mean, if people aren't grown up enough to deal with good, bad, or indifferent things that happen historically, that is not my problem, and I couldn't give a fuck.
I do agree with you because history is something that should be taught no matter what, the good and the bad. And I think that more people need to face up to that personally. Like my son will ask me a question about who were the bad guys in World War II, and you'd sit there and be like, well, technically there was no good guys, but you have to try and spin this somehow. There were varying degrees of who was worse, I think would be the best way of putting it. And it is just, I'm a bit like yourself that I don't want to shy away from the nasty bits, but then sometimes I rein in and it's like, he's 6, he doesn't need to know about the millions dead and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose, fair enough. I mean, from my point of view, with the ambush thing, it's more like it's a very from like tactics, techniques, and procedures point of view. It's very interesting because it's the first time you had a fairly mechanized. Well, they weren't really mechanized in modern sense. They used trucks and stuff. We had a mechanized force dealing with a completely unmechanized insurgency that used prototype IEDs to use the modern. So it's like you've got a lot of the same tactical problems that you would have had during the Great War on Terror. You would have had the same kind of issues with keeping your convoy dispersed versus keeping it concentrated. You've all these same things to think about. So there's a great book if you're interested in it from a not really dealing with the ideological side, but looking at it as just as a conflict and the ideas that came from it and how it shaped the evolution of military thought, particularly in the British Army in the 30s. There's a great book called Ambushes and Armour by a guy called W.H. Cout, who was the director of the Warfare College for, I think, the American Air Force or something like that, the US Air Force. And he's fairly politically neutral. He doesn't really go into it very much, but like he deals with it in a very professional manner. Fascinating book. Loved it. I will say I enjoyed it very much, but I did also voluntarily study history and Latin at university, and I like reading kind of dense, dry books, so it might not be for everyone. I couldn't say, but
I think as well, like if you take away the Irish and the British of it, right? It would be like somebody in Vietnam doing a game about Vietnam where basically it was indigenous people with no technology outsmarting and outgunning a fully technically advanced military system. So I'm pretty sure there's loads of like campaigns you could do in Vietnam where the Viet Cong and all that, and using like booby traps, like and I guess a fully mechanized and basically an advanced military fighting guerrilla warfare type style. I mean, you could take that from any concept throughout the world, really.
You say that. I remember last year's Salute, there was a Vietnam table. I don't know if it was like a full game or like just a diorama or something, but someone had set up.
Empress and Rubicon did it together. So there's
Sorry, mate?
Empress and Rubicon did it together. So Eoinmcminis and Rubicon Minis got together. They made, what the fuck is the game? I can't remember the name of the game off the top of my head now, but they made a model line for it. So there's like US Army Infantry, US Marines, Viet Cong, NVA plastic kits. They've got some resin and some plastic vehicles. But yeah, that's the thing. I made an update to Ambush for a friend of mine in the States, so that would include automatic, more automatic. So there's already section machine guns in Ambush, but he wanted like how would assault rifles work and how would armor work and all that jazz. So I kind of updated it for him because he wanted to play that.
Cool.
So and I'm just going to jump off topic, right? Because we're talking about military stuff and that. So you joined the Irish Army. What made you become an officer? Was it because your uncle was an officer, or family were officers? Or was it because you were educated? Because there is that distinction where I know people that have got degrees and educated who are privates, but the majority of them who go through university become officers. Was it because you went through university that you became an officer, or was it just because you were told to?
No, I wasn't told. What I was told to by my parents is not join or go near the fucking army at all. They didn't want me anywhere near it. Same with my granddad, actually. So my granddad had been a sergeant in the army as well. But no, the reason I wanted to be an officer was so I'm very bossy, like very, very bossy, and I don't mind being told what to do. But generally speaking, what I like to get is like a job of like, all right, Owen, like say the kitchen and sitting room needs tidying up for this time. And then I'd expect you to just go away and come back at that time. The job will be done. Happy days. You can give me another job. I'll keep rocking on like that. But I've always been very much like, even in my friend circle, I tend to be the person who I don't necessarily try to. It's not like I'm going around telling them what to do or not. But it just, I always seem to be the person who comes up with ideas or takes charge of something and gets things done. And just, what can I do. It's just the way I've always been. And then I remember I read a book when I was doing my leaving cert. I don't know what it like the last exams in secondary school, whatever they're called in England. I don't know. But I was doing my leaving cert, and one of the things we had to do for history was read a book about a historical topic and write a report about it. And my dad gave me a book called Once a Warrior King, and that is a memoir of an American officer in Vietnam who was embedded in a small team in a delta. So he wasn't with a big army unit. He was doing kind of a sort of a semi-special forces, semi-hearts and minds thing. And I was like, it's a difficult read. He had a hard time, and sometimes he had a good time, other times. But he stressed all in all, he's like, this isn't great. I'm a bit by myself. Even there's other people here, like I'm kind of in charge of them. But the challenge is there, and I enjoy it. And I was kind of like, that sounds like me. And then, so the agreement with my parents was I was going to join the army anyways, because they weren't, like, I wasn't going to not do it. I wanted to do it. They said, just do your college degree first. Like, fair enough. So I joined the Hiking Society in Trinity, the college I went to. And I just found myself every weekend, I was the person organising the hikes. I organised navigation courses every year. I got us to do more first aid stuff. I just kind of took charge, and I liked being in charge. I don't know how to put it any more than that. I just liked it.
And then you said that you broke your back. How did you break your back, if you don't mind me asking?
We were doing a battler. We were doing a battle PT, and had an accident. I don't really remember very well. All I can remember is I had a massive hit of adrenaline, and we were back in the mess. So we were kind of having lunch afterwards, and it was. I don't remember this, but I've been told it often enough that I can remember it now. But I was sitting at the table, and we had whatever we were having for lunch, and apparently my hands just started doing this, and I was looking at somebody, and I was like, and they were like, "Ooh, Granddad doesn't seem right." I was called Granddad in the cadets because I was the oldest cadet. I'm actually 33, but then I was 24 or 25 or something. They get very young officer cadets in Ireland. But anyways, not relevant. So I just remember I was sitting there. I don't remember. I was told I was sitting there. My hands started shaking. I completely lost the power of speech. And bizarrely, one of the cadets was like a fully qualified GP, and he came running over to me. His name was Turlock. He came running over to me, and he was like, "Oh shit!" So he did the fast test to me to see whether I was having a stroke. I failed that, and then I went to stand up, and there was like this bit I do remember because it was very scary. I couldn't feel my right leg at all. I just fell straight down the ground. There was no power in it. I couldn't really stand up, and he was like, "Right, get everyone the fuck out of this room and get this man into an ambulance." Yeah. Then I was in Naas Hospital for a while. Susan was living in Cork at the time when I was in the cadets, and she drove straight up. Took her 3.5-4 hours, something like that. She came in. She had thought enough to stop and get me a Snickers because I hadn't eaten all day. I was kind of sitting there off my titties and morphine, and this is actually quite funny. So I've been on morphine a few times for the spine and whatnot, but as it turns out, when I'm given morphine, I completely forget how to speak English. So there's like this doctor from South Africa, a doctor from Nigeria, 2 nurses from the Philippines. They're all looking at me like, "What? Oh, gee, is he having another stroke?" And I was like, "You fucking on left." And Susan was sitting there going, "Yeah, he needs to go to the toilet now, and he needs this." And they're like, "What the fuck?" I don't. There's quite a long bit that I just don't remember well. That's when I got back into. Not when I got back, because like up until that point, I didn't take any indoor hobby. I didn't take it particularly seriously. I felt aggrieved any time I had to spend time indoors. I liked to be outside as much as possible. So I'd be out running, or I'd be hiking, or I'd be doing camping shit in the forest, or whatever. It's quite funny. The day before I broke my back, we did a fitness test, and I ran a 10K in 37 minutes and 29 seconds. And I haven't been able to run since then. Like, that's the last time I went for a run. So I can walk now, thankfully. I can walk, so that's good. But and I've had a lot of physical therapy recently. Actually, Here's going to keep you up at night. I didn't know this could happen. So the way, like your hip is, it's got your sacrum, and then there's left hip, right? I assumed they were fused and could not separate, but I learned recently because I was doing some stretches and whatnot, and there was a god awful crack out of my back, very painful. Shit. So they can detach. My right hip had detached from my sacrum. Which,
yeah.
Was there not a story that somebody dislocated their hip, and then when they went to relocate their hip, their testes would get caught in, like, I think I read that somewhere. Mind you, it was the internet. You're not supposed to believe everything you believe in the internet, but I'm pretty sure that happened.
maybe. I mean, but yeah, that did not happen to me, and both my testicles are still here, happy out.
But
What's the recovery on something like that like then? Because that's pretty gnarly.
From the hip thing, it
Yeah,
got put back.
from your back.
Oh, I'm never going to recover from it.
Sure. Okay.
I'll just have to manage it. Now, thankfully, I've avoided fusion, because I still am quite young, and that would be like if I get that now, I wouldn't be able to put on my shoes by the time I'm 50, and I don't particularly like. So I do as much Pilates and yoga and that kind of shit as I can. I walk as much as I can, and I try not to be fat, which is a problem because even during the cadetship, when you're exercising all the time and not eating a huge pile of food, I still weighed like 100 kilos. I found out I had to go get a nerve thing done, a nerve test or something it's called. So this fella had to like stick a needle in my leg and get me to move my muscles, and then you hear a sound. He's like, "Yeah, it'll be kind of quiet." And he jammed the needle into my leg, and there's a big fucking static thing out of the radio. He goes, "Ah, you're one of those types." I was like, "What do you mean one of those types?" But it turns out Ireland, presumably on account of the circular family trees, we have a very high incidence of unusually dense muscle fibers in the population. Which, you know, if I wasn't hurt, that'd be a great thing. It's probably why I was relatively strong. But this guy was like, "Yeah, so if you get a muscle spasm, your muscles are quite strong. They're going to pull things out of place. That's why you keep getting them." So, like, I get a lot of spasms in the back, and then it can just pull my discs around, and then they impinge the nerves, and I lose feeling my right leg, and blah, blah, blah.
I think, as we were chatting this morning, like you were pretty much saying if it wasn't for that, then you wouldn't be on with us today. Like you would have probably stayed in the military and made a career of it then.
Oh, yeah, that was the plan. The plan was I wanted to get up to being a full colonel, do that for a while, and retire. And then I wanted to do my doctorate in history and teach history.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your injury, Rose. I mean, that is terrible. Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing worse. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially with your back. Like,
I'm not in a wheelchair. I still can walk, thankfully, and all the big work, you know, which is important.
Exactly. Now, as you said, you were speaking in tongues there when you were out your face in morphine. At what age did you start? Have you always spoke Irish, and what age did you start learning to speak English? Is that usually the people that I know in Donegal? There's a boy called Tag, good Irish name that, or Tag, or Tadgh, Tag. He never started speaking English until he went to national school. Was that the same for yourself? Are you quite a Gaelic household?
So we always, the joke is that I come from the Gaeltacht in Kildare, but there isn't one in Kildare. But just our house. So my granny is from a Gaeltacht in Kerry called Carcagrina, and she always preferred speaking Irish to English when she could. Yes, they are Terrence, they are a curse, but she always preferred speaking English or Irish if she could, and she was very hot on teaching all of us to speak Irish. Now, of my family, I would guess that I speak it the most because I like it. I think it's a very nice language. It's not. I wouldn't say I'm not particularly nationalistic, but I would be quite patriotic, and I think it's important to keep it going. And if I can use it, why would I not use it? So
I mean, you're 100% right. Like I didn't learn to speak Gaelic in school, and because I think it was like outlawed back then, I think they're starting to teach it more and more now. We used to have like a few TV shows in BBC Two. I think it was Podrick Post, which is Postman Pat. Dotterman, which I think I found out Hello, cheery, and tree was three. Like, and but when I lived in Donegal, like you've got Arrymore Island and there's another island like called Tory Island, and there was a brother and sister worked in the company I used to work for, and see what watching them just speak to us, they would just when they were speaking to each other in work, they would just be speaking Gaelic, and I love hearing the Gaelic language, and there's that good YouTube video where you've got the two guys wanting to be like get their Irish passports, and I think one's black and one's white, and they like do this Irish speech bit. I think the last joke is how do you drink Guinness out of a can, and I think the joke is you don't drink Guinness out of a can. But I love like we should all definitely be speaking Irish if you live in the country, but I don't.
I don't know. I don't necessarily agree that you should feel like you have to. So I don't, because I think that way. I think who the fuck is you gonna shit what I think, but that way I would say is probably you're just gonna make people feel like they have to do something, and particularly in Ireland, you might have noticed living here, like the Gardaí, the state generally, it's not really possible to be very. You must do this. Like I think for obvious reasons, we generally North and South respond poorly to that. What I like to see nowadays is that you got more and more people doing the manho shielta, the social media through Irish, and you got people like Kneecap doing the rap Gaeilge, or you got people taking the traditional shamno singing and bringing it forward, doing interest in different things with it, fusing with different musical traditions. I'd like to see all that happen. Like there's a great there's a great quote from Sean Tabine was his name, and his cousin Sean Tracy had been killed during the War of Independence, but Sean Tracy had been writing letters to Bean's dad to explain, like, you know, why, because he was, in fairness from Sean, he was a very violent man. Like he killed quite a lot of people and had no particular remorse about it. But in his mind, it's not that he didn't particularly hate the British, and he said I would have treated them no different if they were German people or French people or Turkish people. I don't give a shit. He's just like, I want us to be our own thing with our own voice and our own place in the world. That's what we're after, and that's what he was after. And he was killed anyways in an ambush, and then his cousin, to whom he was writing the letters, had this thing, one day, we'll tell our sons in Gaelic tongues the day Sean Tracy died. And I remember that stuck with me very much so, because like nowadays, a lot of people would say that they're fucking proud to be Irish and they paint themselves up all stupid on Paddy's Day and they do whatever, but like they don't engage. Like a lot of my stuff comes from the Tombo Coolinga, or it comes from other, like the Scaelt and the Fianachta, or it comes from like Irish mythology, because I interact with it and I read it and I appreciate it for what it is. It's not like the WBA cutesy fairy bullshit. Like that was a thing with an agenda where they were trying to get Irish mythology and put it through a specific lens so that it would be appreciated by and acceptable to a sort of Victorian, Edwardian middle class. So like they completely removed all the dick jokes, all the stuff about like feminine reproduction. Like for example, at one stage, so the story of the Tombo Coolinga is that Queen Maeve and King Alil want to rob a huge big bull out of Ulster, and Cuchulainn is the hero of Ulster who is stopping them from doing that. But at one stage, Maeve is on her period. Cuchulainn has the opportunity to kill her, but wouldn't do it because it would be dishonourable. And then he stops any of the other Ulstermen from touching her because she's on her period, and it's not right to fight somebody who can't fight back. But if you look at the English language versions of the Táin, completely glossed over. Or at the Maeve tries to bribe Cuchulainn with the friendship of her ties. So she's like, you know, you do what I want you to do, and you can have a munch. And again, completely taken out of the stories. Like there's a lot of funny dick jokes in it. The same as like if you read classical Greek plays or poetry, it's the very same. They're all full of dirty jokes because people are fucking people, and dick jokes are funny. So
Even if you look at fucking modern films compared to, like, if you look at Troy, like, there was no mention in the film Troy that they lay siege to Troy for 10 years. And the film was like a couple of days. Sean Bean sees some guy whittling a horse for his son. Bang. None of this 10-year bullshit. Which I would have probably sat in the cinema and watched a 10-year battle, because why not? Do you know what I mean?
Would you watch a 10-year film?
Yeah. That'd be brilliant. I mean, that would be brilliant.
I think that nowadays it'd be a fucking 10 film series with spin-offs and cinematic universe.
I'd watch them all, and then I'd watch Ulysses going home as well. Fuck it.
1 sec, my wife is just back in from a course. I'll be back in a second, boys.
No worries, mate.
So, Casey, Crystal Palace are getting absolutely pumped.
Yes, we are. We are. I've got it on the tablet next to me. But it's fine, because every couple of seasons we've got this half-time 4-0 against a team from the North-East thing. It happened this time a couple of years ago against Sunderland, where we were 4-0 down at half-time. And to be honest with you, they humped Newcastle in the week 4-1, weekend 4-1, so I'm not fussed. Cup final soon. Cup semi-final soon. So I don't give a shit about today.
Another big thing that you're into, Owen, is you're into the old bog ball and the old assaulting each other with hurley bats. I take it with your back injury now, you can't play, but you just sit there and armchair it now, will you?
Are you having a cut on and come and look classy at quiet, are you?
Yeah, because even like I've lived in Donegal now the last 18 years. I mean, Donegal won Sam. It must have been about 15 years ago. He came to work and I absolutely refused to get a picture beside it because I slagged it off. But I found myself slowly watching fucking Donegal play GAA now. I'm disappointed in myself.
In fact, that is a purgative experience. That is pretty awful. They do play puke football. But no, the Gaelic games are the superior form of sport, and that's that. Now I have, because my wife loves soccer ball. She plays soccer ball for the Defence Forces team. I actually have a cool video on my phone of her scoring a goal against Canada. But I have been learning about soccer ball for the last while, so that I can be interested in what she's interested in. But it is the inferior sport, and that's just like there was a great commentator on Gaelic games called Micheál Hurtig, and he had a thing about soccer where he'd say, "Christine lads, it's a strange way to spend an hour and a half. You watch a team of 2 sets of millionaires running around the pitch for an hour and a half, and they could score nothing." And he's not wrong. What's the fucking point? It's fucking stupid.
It's the stress of it. We love the stress of it.
I know. Like, my son, right, he's 18 now. We tried him with Gaelic. Nah. And I don't know Gaelic, right, but I know sport, right? And it was and we got him into, he played for Setanta up in Gordon. And I know about sports and what you're supposed to do in sports, and I found myself frustrated watching them. Now I caught on quite quickly that the most dangerous position in hurley is somebody that's up top, because I know no danger to the defence. And I think my son spent the best part of 2 years using his hurley bat as a majorette stick and chatting shite to the opposition goalkeeper, and that used to frustrate the life out of me. Because like, even though he could probably play hurley better than me, I knew that he wasn't moving about, he wasn't making space, and at some points he was just running into his own teammates. I would have hit him with a hurley bat, to be honest with you.
Hey, listen, I have a thing called dyspraxia, so I wasn't obviously the greatest sports person going. Like, I loved playing football, and I love running and jumping and climbing. Like, I'm not very good at it, but I love doing it. But I just find that they're more enjoyable to watch, but more important, because I don't really like watching sports, particularly nowadays. I can't. Luke is dead on the position with the bench, but I just find it hard to watch sport since I hurt the back and I can't play anymore. Cause like I said earlier on, I used to hate being indoors generally. It was kind of offensive to me. I like to be outside doing things, and I was dog shit at football, but I liked playing it. I gave rugby a go for a year. I thought it was boring. Didn't like it.
You probably weren't playing it right then, because it's so violent.
I was a second rower flanker, and it was like, it wasn't the violence levels were fine. I just thought football was more fun, you know. So just enjoyed it more.
I have to say, the first time I saw, I'm going to respect the culture, and I'm going to call it football rather than getting it football. I'm going to be.
Call it Gaelic. You can call it whatever you want.
Bob Ball. Call it Bob
The
Ball.
first time I saw bog ball, yeah, because from County Mayo, let's face it, there is nothing fuck all but bogs up there. It confused the absolute bollocks off of me because I must have been about 7, and I'm seeing these guys running around bouncing it and kicking them up, and it's like, why are you put it on the floor? What are you doing? And I had like my dad's uncle pulled me aside and was like, "Listen here, you little shit. You're here now. This is how we play it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And that was it. And it is fun to watch. I'll give it that. But I, like a lot of other sports stuff, I like watching. I couldn't do it myself, and I don't have a clue what's going on half the time. But it's a good laugh.
Well, my manager always had a great answer for anyone asking us to play more like soccer. He'd say, "God gave us 4 fucking limbs. We should use them all to play sport."
That's a fair point. It's a very fair point. And it's why people do martial arts as well. And kick the shit out of each other. So there you go. It's a very fair point of it.
All right, Karate Kid, all right.
So we've talked, staying off topic again, we've talked about all the stuff. We haven't talked about all this stuff. We do our quick fire questions, just so we get to know who else you are. First one, what is your non-alcoholic beverage of choice? Because I think we all know your alcoholic one by now. So what's your non-alcoholic beverage of choice?
Like a hot drink, tea.
Yeah. Don, what's your follow-up on that? Because
is it kind? Fucking hell, man! Is it Lions or Barry's?
Neither. Beauties.
I've never heard of Buies. I've never heard of Buies.
Yeah, well, maybe it's a commission thing. I know. Between the two, probably Lions Gold Bend.
there you go.
That's the tea bag.
And on an evening, you're sitting down, you're packing yourself a little snack. What's your crisp of choice?
Salt and vinegar. Anything very strongly salt and vinegar.
Any particular brand, or are we just saying whatever's available?
Hunky Dory I quite like, or Tato.
Hunky
Dunstore,
Dory.
their own brand of crisps, and their salt and vinegar is pretty good. But that is like, when you eat it, you kind of go, nah. Got to give you that taste.
Yeah, that fucking Aldi brand of salt and vinegar, fake hunky dories. They're called Oakley Doakleys. It's like fucking Ned Flanders made them up, man.
Listen,
They are tasty.
the Germans now, if you're buying crisps off the Germans, you've gone wrong somewhere in your life.
Yeah.
They never lost 2 world wars to sell us crisps.
No. So, something else I always ask about is your traditional cooked breakfast. Obviously, living here, it's a full English, but you have your Irish breakfast. What is the difference between an Irish breakfast and what would be classed as a full English? I think this is a good question.
I do not know what's in a full English, but I know. So, funny enough, I actually don't like cooked breakfast very much. My favourite breakfast by far, this is how strange I can be. My favourite breakfast is genuinely porridge. I fucking love porridge. You give me milk-based porridge, none of this water bullshit. Fuck that with a big stick. Milk-made porridge. But my wife loves cooked breakfast, and I make her. It's got 2 sausages, 2 rashers, 2 pieces of black pudding. That's the job. I know some people like beans with it. Okay.
No white pudding.
She's not a big fan of white pudding. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. It really depends on where you get it from. You have to get it from the right place. I mean, the big deal with us is that. So I worked as a butcher for a while as well. Enjoyed that very much. It's great crack. I learned my butchering through Irish, so I know I have lots of very specific and special words about that. But regardless, the big thing is like where to source it from. So this is getting moderately off this topic, but like if you're eating meat, you should always try to eat it from like animals that have had a good life and done their best job. So like we don't buy now. Thankfully, there's just the 2 of us. I can imagine if we had 4 kids, we buy from wherever the fuck we buy from. But there's just the 2 of us. So that's enough of an appetite. So we buy stuff from like butchers when we can, and good butchers. And we go to there's a crowd in Clarecastle, not too far from us, called Lumina Farm. We buy their stuff whenever we can. They're great. They have a really cool like regenerative agriculture project going on. And then my mum's partner has a farm in Athenry. We go up and help him with the sheep as often as we can. Big fan of lamb, big fan of mutton and goat. But go back to the cooked breakfast. What's the difference between it? I think, doesn't an English one have like fucking mushrooms and shit? I don't know. The more in a cooked breakfast, fuck away with that. I don't know.
The superior breakfast, though, and I'm being biased here, is a Scottish breakfast. There's put square sausage in it, and square sausage is the superior sausage of all sausage, and Scottish black pudding is the
Always
superior
come up
black
with
pudding
this square
of
sausage.
all black puddings there is. Scottish black pudding and a lawn. Can he be a square sausage?
Look. I just feel sorry for you that you've lived here for 18 years and that's still what you think. That's to be frank, that's not even on you. That's not your fault. That is collectively as a nation, that is our fault. We should have instructed you better. So I do apologize for that.
I think you'll find that if you ever go to Scotland, right?
I have been.
I don't know if you've been. Have you been to Scotland?
I have been to Scotland. We did for our honeymoon. Again, how odd a couple we are. For our honeymoon, we did a week-long course with Ray Mears in the Highlands, in bushcraft. And we were in Glasgow and Edinburgh. We were in somewhere else before as well, but I can't remember where it was off the top of my head. But yeah, I gotta say now, the food, nope.
Did you not have square sausage? Did you not have our own square sausage?
Yeah, I've tried the square sausage and the black pudding. Nope. Not a bit of it.
You're breaking Donk's heart here, man.
The food in Scotland was fucking better than the food south of that border. Holy, what do you tan be eating? No fucking wonder you spread yourselves across the four fucking corners of the world. If that's the shit you were coming home to. What the fuck?
Yeah, we had to invade other countries to get flavour. That's how it works.
Jesus Christ. I remember we went to Nottingham one time to go to Warhammer World, and we went out. So we were in Warhammer World today, and we went somewhere. We went to visit some house or something. I don't fucking know. But on the way back, there was this like fancy looking pub, and yeah, go on. We'll try out like the famous English beer garden and pub food and whatnot. And I wanted something porky, so I had gammon steaks. Like, cool, I'll have that. It was the saddest shit I've ever eaten in my life. It was fucking, for one thing, it was white. What the fuck? It was soggy. Then they had chips, and they were hard. And what was going on? But I could see why everyone looked a bit fucking miserable if that's what they were eating on a regular basis. Holy bollocks.
To be fair, I never have a pub gammon and chips because it's always shit. It doesn't matter what pub you go to, it's always going to be bad quality stuff. So that's we should have warned you on that one. That's one to avoid.
Yeah, it's cooked breakfast. I don't know. Like I said, it's a bad person to ask. So I just fucking love porridge.
Do you have anything in your porridge? Or are you having it straight up just as it is? Do you not like mix a bit of honey in there or something like that?
Most times when I'm having it, I just have it as it is because I quite like it. But I get nice porridge oats, so I'm happy out with that. But sometimes, if I'm feeling swanky, I will put either some honey into it or rhubarb and ginger jam, which is my favorite jam.
Oh, that's different. Yeah, right.
To keep the beard going.
That's what you need, Casey, to get your beard drawn. You've been drawing that for the last 12 years.
Don't be it's not his
fault. Come on, you didn't see it. How bad was this like 4 weeks ago, Dunk? It was just like out here. It was ridiculous.
It was like it was as though somebody had shaved their pubes and stuck it on his face.
That's a fair comment. I'll wear that one because yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. Fuck you. So we'll go back on to just chatting some hobby and bits for the last 15 minutes now before we wrap up. Something I wanted to ask you with the second volume of your book was that you went off and you did all your Kickstarter stuff. I probably missed the first one. I don't know if you did Kickstarter on that. How was the process of going through all of that sort of stuff? Because I can imagine that can be quite stressful.
It was very interesting. So we printed volume 2 first because I think personally Clash of Banners is a better game, but that's because I prefer the big battles.
Yep.
So that's one of the I want this to be a thing first, and then when we decided we were going to go to Salute, Susan made a very valid point. We can't go there fucking volume 2, and people are asking where's volume 1. It's like, oh, it's a PDF. That won't be answered. So I didn't particularly fancy shelling out all in one go by myself the full cost of printing 300 books, which is quite substantial. But I also kind of was a bit realistic about it. I was like, we're never going to cover the full cost. That's just because neither myself, nor Susan, nor Terence, nor Chris, none of us are any good at self-promotion or promotion or marketing generally. Like, I'm all right at selling things in person. I'm quite chatty and I have a brass neck, and I'll go up and talk to someone. I don't give a balls. But on social media and the constant grind to put things out there, I just don't like it. It drives me bananas. But we said, fuck it, we'll try for covering maybe half the cost. And yeah, it was. I didn't like the fact that I felt the need that I constantly had to put out there, oh, here's the Kickstarter, here's the link, we're this far along, give us the support. But it was very, very rewarding to see how many people did support it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was also very strange for me because more people bought Clash of Banners via the Kickstarter pledges than just went to the page and bought Clash of Banners there and then. So we had 20 people buy both books as part of the Kickstarter pledge. But by that stage, Clash of Banners had sold like 12 or 13 copies from the Ko-Fi page. It was really, I didn't really understand that at all. But I had a very odd experience of people saying, oh, now you have the Kickstarter, so it's real. And I went, motherfucker, it's real now. If you want, here it is, you can have it. But no, it was, I found myself like, I didn't really want to be doing it, but I found myself more or less constantly checking the project page or my emails to see, has it come in, is it there, is it working, have we got closer, and then it got over the line. I was like, holy shit, it got right over there, and actually we were looking for 1,500, I think, and we got to 1,650 or something,
cool.
And that was great. I was like, okay, this is cool. But I will say, for anyone thinking of doing the Kickstarter, holy shit, balls, that platform is full of scam artists.
Really?
You'll get emails on the regular being like, oh, we will help you. If you give us €500, we'll give you 25,000 in backing. Get the fuck.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of jazz, which I had not experienced before. I didn't enjoy.
Fair enough. At Salute, hypothetically, if someone was to come around, because obviously you had some big companies there, Mantic, Warlord, a few others. If one of them was to approach you, get the demo game, not tell you who they were, and then just turn around and say, you know what, I'm buying this, I'll buy the lot off you, I want this game, I am going to do this myself, you can carry on writing it for me as a job, but this belongs to my company. How open to that would you be?
It would genuinely depend on the price. I mean, if they want me to do it as a job, I work as a day rate contractor for an IT firm anyways. So I have if they want me to write stuff for them, like, here's my day rates, you can pay them or not pay them, that's up to you. If they wanted to buy Famous by Our Swords, I probably would be open. I would be open to selling it. Somebody had this talk to me before, actually. This is a bit of a tangent, but it'll answer the question properly. Somebody had a talk to me before about, so they were designing a game that they're super passionate about, and they said, I would not sell this for any money in the world. This is my passion project. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, but you must feel the same about Famous by Our Swords. And the honest answer is no, I don't. I like this project. I enjoyed very much. I have great fun writing it. I plan on writing a novel based in the setting. I like it. It's great. And it's a really fun game. And I want people to play it. But my real passion project, the one thing that the game, I haven't started it yet, but the game thing that I would not sell no matter what anyone offered me in my head is I wanted to do an RPG set in the Fíine and the Tombo Coolinga. So go full send straight down there, Gaelic mythology with all the bells and whistles. And that I wouldn't sell anyone. But Famous by Our Swords, if somebody offered me a decent amount of money, because I think there's legs to the idea, and I particularly think once I have book 3 finished, so book 3 is basically adding army level magic, army level monsters, army level like non-human regiments, and kind of the more weird aspects of the setting. Like I got some strange ideas for it, and I think once you have that, then effectively you've got a complete analogy for Warhammer Fantasy Battles and more time, mini agnostic setting with a very quick to learn rule set.
And for anybody that had more time on their bingo card, now it's time to take it off.
I didn't even say it this week.
But in fairness, that game always gets mentioned for a very fucking good reason. It's a enjoyable rule set. It's got a very compelling setting. It's really good.
And from listening to Casey bang on about it for the last 2 years, it's just quite a dedicated and passionate fan base who are quite defensive of it as well.
Oh, you get very precious when you point out how the game itself maybe is a teensy bit clunky to play and could perhaps be somewhat better, but not that I've ever done that.
No, I'm not going to buy it.
Are you going to any other conventions? Is there any in Ireland that you're looking to go to this year, or was salute your big day out?
Yeah, I would very much like to go to GaelCon. I think it's on in October. I just have to email them and talk about it. I mean, the more sobering aspect was like from a financial standpoint, Salute was a fucking catastrophe. Like it cost us a lot of money to get everything over there. And then it cost us a lot of money in terms of time, and that we had to take a lot of time off work to go there. And like, there's a lot of interest, and I'm very grateful. Like, I suppose it's funny to talk about this because it makes it sound like I feel entitled to people's money and time, but I don't. So, to anyone who bought the game, anyone who played the game, anyone who looked at the minis or bought the minis, well, I'm grateful for their time, their attention, and their money because time is money. But neither I nor anyone else am entitled to somebody to do that. But for us then, in a more realistic standpoint, like we made €1,000. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Between the cost of flights, buying the trader stand, shipping everything to England, we're already well down, and that's before you include how much it costs to actually make all the minis and make all the books and everything. So you have to have.
It's funny. It's funny you say that because we were chatting to one of the other stands. I asked a similar question: how has the day been? And they literally said that if it wasn't just for one bloke who bought one of everything, the day would have been a complete wash. And they must have made around about the same that yourself made. So they're obviously a bit different. They're based in the UK, and they were the other side of London, so getting across and stuff was a bit easier. But it does seem to be the sort of trend that I'm seeing, that a lot of the smaller guys, a lot of the independents, although these big events are in one way great for them, they're also an absolute pain in the arse.
It's what it is it's very funny to see. So we had a brilliant. It was a very surreal moment. So I was talking to somebody about, he wanted to know more about why I put together Byzantine Greece and Gaelic Ireland. I was talking about whatever, but I hear out of my left ear, this guy came over. He was talking to Susan, and he's like, "Oh, a new independent game, great!" And Susan was telling him about it, and he goes, "Oh, so it's mini agnostic, yeah. Oh, and it's got its own fantasy setting, yeah. And it's low fantasy, yeah. And like it's good for imagination, yeah. And it's a quick learn rule system, yeah. This is perfect. This ticks all my boxes. This is great. Oh, cool. Like, do you want to buy the rule book? No." And he just walked off, and you're like, that's like whatever. Like I said, I don't feel entitled to that person's £20, but it's just it's sometimes a little bit difficult to stomach people telling you things like, "Oh, your miniatures are too expensive," or "Your books are too expensive." When I explain, like, I've paid all the artists fairly, no one's been shortchanged. Now, in fairness, I didn't really pay Susan to do the graphic design, and Matt volunteered it because he's trying to build Little War Stories is trying to build out a bit of a commission thing for himself, and he wanted to use this as a start for that project, and that's fine. But like Joe, the sculptor, I pay him to sculpt, and then we get them made by he's a guy called Yanis in Greece, and he does the model casting for Chimera and Pegaso. Like, he doesn't fuck around, so they're made, they're really good quality, and I still sell them. Like, I don't know if you've seen well, I know you haven't, Casey, but like, I'm not to toot my own horn, but they shit all over Forge World in terms of quality. There's no bubbles, there's no flash, there's no mold line, there's no fucking around. They're really good quality, and I still sell them relatively cheaply. Like Horatius is €15. He's the Centurion dude. Kekahuk is 25, and he's massive.
Huge, yeah.
And then Ace is 2 retainers, and that trophy is €35. I mean, that's none of those are, in my mind, especially expensive for what they are.
No.
But again, it's a small company, it's handmade and hand produced to top tier standards. The books, I don't get them fucking printed in a stock factory in China and shipped, like they're made in Galway. They're not cheap.
Mhm.
They're not finished cheap. The contents weren't cheap to make. So it's, you can explain these things to people. And again, it's not that I feel entitled to the money. I don't. But it's just very hard sometimes to hear people say, well, it's too expensive, while they have a handful of fucking Games Workshop stuff or Warlord stuff.
Yeah. I think that's...
And tell me this, right, because it's a question we're hoping to get Salute on. I've been emailing them back and forth the last 2 days, and I think we've pretty much got them coming on in June. But as a small retailer yourself, did any of the big influencers that we see on Instagram come round you at all and were chatting to you, or were they just interested in, from your perspective, meeting other influencers and getting their pictures taken beside somebody better known than them?
No, so I know Andy from Mediocre Hobbies quite well.
Yeah.
So he used to run the Games Workshop shop in Dublin, and I used to play there a lot. And like, we'd be fairly friendly, anyways. So he came over, we had a great chat. I was like, oh, I'll give you stuff, and he's like, no, and he bought, like, in all credit to him, he bought the stuff. And the same with Chloe from Lady Kane. She came over. We had that because like we've again been following each other on Instagram for years, and again she bought the minis. She didn't, there was none of this like, oh, I'm an influencer for you. No, none of that bullshit. So those were the 2 kind of big names who came over. Now I don't know if you remember him because he's off Instagram now at the moment. VW Talos, who I talked to a lot as well. He designed the game Sheer. Yeah, great time for him. He was over for a while. We had a great chat. Again, he bought the rule books and stuff. Like he's a great lad. But beyond that, I mean, frankly, I couldn't give a balls if somebody who's an influencer does or doesn't come over. If they want to talk about the game and play it, that's cool. If they don't, okay. What I want is people who are, like, my ideal customer would be somebody like that Swedish guy, because he came over, he played the games, tried the games, enjoyed the games, and he's going to go with the other lads who bought the books, and they're going to tell their mates who play games, and they're going to, like, ultimately, yes, I want to sell the thing, obviously, if, there is a commercial side to it, but also, I genuinely believe this is a great way to get new people to play games. Because the rules take 20 minutes to get into your head, if even. And, the scope is there for you. Like, use whatever minis you like. I know for a fact my little cousin, he plays this with Lego bricks. Different coloured Lego bricks. And, like, that's great. Because they don't want there to be barriers to entry for somebody to, like, start rolling dice and making stories and having fun. That's the whole reason I made this thing in the first place, because I wanted people to fucking play games with it. And I want people to play games in the world. So yeah, it's nice. It's really nice when somebody like Andy or Chloe and they make a post or they share a story and you get the buzz. That is fantastic. It really is, and I appreciate it very much. But I also appreciate just anyone who comes over and talks about it or tries it or plays it, because all I want to do is get people to play the fucking thing. That's the job.
Mate, we've had Andy on. We had him on this year.
We did.
This year we had him on. Absolutely fantastic lad, and his journey was absolutely sensational. Like, from leaving Games Workshop to going on Twitch full time. Now, is that something that ideally you could see yourself doing? Is giving up the day job and going head first into game development if the missus gives you permission, if you financially, and she allowed you to do it?
Actually, that's, I don't know if this is what you wanted to talk about, but it did bring up an interesting thing. So, like when I really fucked my back and I was trying to get back on my feet, literally and metaphorically, Susan was always encouraging me to, like, no, you like the mini zone and you like the games, do something. Like it's not. There were some people there in the day like, oh, I could bring home another rule book, my wife would kill me. And Susan was like, that's just fucking sad. And it is like, if there's like, I don't like soccer. Susan's very passionate about it. I'll learn about it and I'll support it. She, for all the effort of trying to make a game that she'll play with me, she doesn't like tabletop games. But she actually, that's not true. She likes RPGs. So she's one of the members of the Thursday night campaign party, and she does the RPGs. But she just doesn't like war games, tabletop games. That's fine. But like, if I turned around to Susan in the morning and I said, listen, I want to give 6 months full time with Famous Fire Swords, we'd sit down, say, right, is it financially viable? Yes, no. If yes, she'd be, yeah, cool, go for it. So to answer the question, yeah, I would like to have a future where I design games for a living or I do something more creative. I mean, I like to write, I like to play music, I like to sing, I also like hiking and map reading and all that jazz. But like, I'm quite creative. I don't particularly enjoy my job. It's relatively boring. It's an IT, but it's it's well paid. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. It's pretty well paid for the amount of effort I put into it, and it gives me time to do my hobbies. So I would like to, but on the flip side, particularly after Salute, you'd really have to question how responsible a decision would it be. Like, I'm not a child anymore.
Yeah.
You can't arse around doing whatever you want, and it would be pretty fucking irresponsible in my mind to say like, well, I want to do this myself, so I'm going to do it. Like, that wouldn't be the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. Fair enough, thanks.
If it became possible, absolutely. Like, if somebody came to me and said, yes, we will pay your day rates if you will design rules for us all day, I would love to.
Right, so you heard it here first. Get another job and let Rupert live the lifestyle that he thinks he deserves to live.
I don't think I deserve to live it. I do deserve. Look. I've been drinking from my special cup all evening. Susan got me this a while ago. It's a pewter goblet with like scenes in the life of Brian Brew engraved onto it, and it's fucking cool. My game design cup.
Yeah, because like, just going back to Salute for a second, because like Casey did his usual, got pissed, rocked up at 3, and he said that by that time a lot of the kind of Instagram people had gone by that stage, so it must have been frustrating, like, to see these people there from the start and then just fuck off, and then for you guys to be the kind of just there at the end. And I would say that to you as well, Casey. How annoying was it?
I think me and Rob talked about this because we get pissed up. We chat a lot of shit. We go there, we have a little bit of fun, come back and we do like a mini debrief. And I know he'll probably do something himself. But the highlight of it was that Salute did on the run-up, maybe I want to say February. We're doing a thing where they were posting up different mini interviews with different people that would be there, because Rock Mini, Richard O'Keefe had one, and a couple of other people did one. I don't know if they reached out to yourself, but there you go. And then as it got closer and closer to the day, it became less about the companies, the games, the clubs that were there, and more about this person's going to be there. You know this person from watching them on Twitch. And they were really ramming it down your throat that up to the last minute, that it wasn't so much about, I felt anyway, and Rob agreed with it wasn't so much about people like Owen turning up and he's got something to demo and he's trying to break this new game out. And it was more about, here's your favorite person that you sit there and doom scroll on most days because you've got nothing better to do when you're having a shit. I personally, I thought it just kind of sucked that they could have done a bit more promotion about it. And maybe if we get them on, we can sort of query up with them and hopefully not piss them off too much. But, you're giving these people free tickets. They got goodie bags of shite in it. I don't know what was in it. And they really rammed home that these people would be there. And then, I rock up at 3 o'clock having a good old time. But let's say somebody else was stuck in traffic for 4 hours, couldn't get there. They rock up thinking, I'm going to meet this person who I like to do in live streams. And by that time, they pissed off already. It's a kind of sort of, it skews the day off in a different angle. Personally, I don't think they should.
Well, I mean, I guess in fairness, from their perspective, if you're able to say to people, oh, like Rogue Hobbies is going to be there and Peachy's going to be there and all this shit, like, people will come, and they want more people there. Like that's their whole, like that's their incentive. It would be nice to think that, doing interviews with Owen here, who's bringing out a new game. And in fairness, there's there was a form and stuff you could fill out where you could apply to be, have your stuff shared and all that. To be fair to Salute, they weren't short of ways to do it. It's just that for me, like, we only got Volume 1 in hand a week before we went to Salute. My full-time job was getting fairly full on. I had a project I had to get finished, and there was a lot on. I didn't have a lot of time to engage with them as fully. But to be frank, if you go and look at the metrics, because even though I was off some material and all that jazz, I still do look at these things. You go look at their metrics and their post engagements on Instagram, very low, practically non-existent. I put up some posts about what I was going to be doing at Salute, and I got more engagement. And that's not, it's not a condemnation of them. It's just that's not their market yet. So I think the reason they're pushing the influencer stuff and the Instagram stuff and all that is they're just trying to attract a new generation of people. Because when you're there, like I was there for the whole day, and the age profile was skewed very highly up for a lot of the day. There's a lot of much older people, and there's obviously nothing wrong with that. But I think they're seeing that, like, okay, there's a finite amount of time they'll still come, but we need to capture the younger audience too.
Yeah.
And what way to do that? I take your point that whatever about the balance of other things, I personally genuinely I didn't. I could have done more with them, but I just didn't have the time to. That's not their fault. That's on me. But having the influencers there, I mean, who gives a shit? Like the big issue is that it's not so much the influencers taking the oxygen room. The big issue is that, like, again, it's nothing to do with Wayland, but Wayland are there with a load of GW stock. People buy a load of GW stock. Yeah. Warlord Games there, people fucking stock up on Warlord Games. You've got the big names in the hobby, or the people are going there like, I want to go to the War Games Foundry store to pick up this stuff in person. I want to go to the Empress Mini store to do this. I want, they go there in their head, but this is what I'm doing. So it's not so much they're going there to look at the new stuff. They're doing some shopping, looking at some demo tables and talking to their friends, which is really what seems to happen the majority of the time. And now they'll walk around, and like we did, you get some people who they'll come over, they'll talk to you, they'll buy your stuff, and it's a privilege. At the end of the day, I felt like it was an immense privilege to be there, to see my name on printed books, to see my game being played, to see the banners, and to know that, like, I wasn't there by myself. Like, my wife was there and two of my friends there supporting me, and I was like, this is mad. But it's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't think really you could complain much about how Salute do most of it.
Yeah.
I think it's not just the aspect that from me watching the Instagram stories and stuff, it's when you hear that they get, like, some of these people get access an hour before the general public, and then they fuck off at 2-3 o'clock. Well, maybe Casey was saying that people are looking to maybe catch up with them and maybe pick their brain over something or ask them a question.
Yeah, there was. I noticed at 9 o'clock, which is when the media room opened, and all the media people going in. Now we were still kind of finishing setting up. We were having a chat, getting ready, or whatever. But like, you would see some of the faces. We all know the faces. There's not that many of them really, and you see them cutting around, and they'd be kind of going, and they'd have nose about things. They're not paying much attention, or and in fairness to them, like the whole social media, that's their business and that's their job and that's how they make money. So they also have, I might be here to meet such and such a person, or I have to make a connection with such and such a company, or whatever the fuck. So that's not great. I mean, I would say if you're there early and you are the influencer type because the amount of people who follow you, it's kind of your job to be available to talk to people until the event, I would think. I would see it.
I'm pretty sure that when people found out Casey was going to be there, they knew he was going to be late.
I was telling people, like, people were messaging me like, "Oh, you're going?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not getting there till at least 2 or 3 of those. So don't expect me to rock up at 9 o'clock and queue, because I saw a picture of those queues and I'm just like, it's not for me." But yeah, it's also the this is how what me and Rob do. Like, we did it last year, we've done it this year. It's just a case of, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that I think me and you have talked about, Doug, before, where it's like, we do these hobbies in our own way. We love them, but at the same time, we disparage them as well. And sort of like, oh, I'm going to a fucking aircraft hangar full of people that paint toy soldiers. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in the same mind, it's kind of like, if I'm going to chat, I am a little bit introverted sometimes. And if I was to rock up to something like that and queue and not have a few drinks beforehand, I'd probably do what Eoin said, just sort of look around like, yeah, this is lovely, this is great. Just look and then fuck off. Whereas if I have a few drinks, I'm up to talk to people. I lose that little bit of tentativeness, should I say, that I am a bit more friendly and a bit more open, and I will just chat a bit more shit.
Yeah. But that's, I guess, I think really, if you're being dead honest, the problem with the event is that it's on for 6 hours and that's it. It's too short. Now, in fairness, I would not even want to begin to imagine how much it would cost to rent that aircraft hangar for 2 days. Like, I very much doubt it would be viable, but I think
that's something that we'll put if they agree to come on. I think I was looking at June 4th. That it's some definitely questions that we'll probably ask them. Like, is it too short? Could you do it over like a longer period of time and stuff like that? But lads, listen, I think it's probably a good time to call it there. Rupert, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Is there anybody, apart from the delightful Sue about getting a second job, that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, Little War Stories with Talos Miniatures. They've done an awful lot to make famous buyer swords a thing. Cat and Matt, most people should already know him, but he's an absolute gentleman, supports me a lot. On Dark and Wings, Ems, she's great. Chat away. Go out and be excellent to each other. Talk to everyone. Don't just fucking buy Games Workshop products, for fuck's sake. Fuck me.
Yeah, there you go.
Different. It won't kill you.
Casey, do you have any final words of wisdom?
Yeah, when you're running a Euros contest and a sweepstake, don't give an Irishman England. We talked about this briefly on Saturday. I still have much love for the fact that you painted up your foot soldier, you brought him to salute. Much respect, because as soon as I drew it, you got that message to me straight away, like, you absolute bastard, you've done that on purpose. So, it was all good fun, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing something like that next year, and we'll get you involved again.
Make sure you get signed. That's all I'm saying. Folks, that's us for another show. We're back on next week. I think it might be the Sisters of Eldar.
Yes.
I'm sure it's them. And then that brings April to a close. And then we're going to jump into May. And we've got all our guests actually booked for May, which is pretty cool. Folks, if you haven't, give Eoin a follow. Look at his stuff. Buy his minis. The minis are absolutely top tier stuff. And let's support a small gamer like we did with Elements of Power.
Yes.
But give Eoin much love. Obviously, he speaks in tongues sometimes, but don't let that hold him against you. And even though he's ginger, I believe he's got a soul.
No, I don't follow you, thankfully.
Eoin, an absolute pleasure having you on, man. Thanks very much for the chat tonight.
Cheers,
and we'll be in contact with you soon. Stuff. See you later, folks.
Cheers.
Up,
guys.
Up, done it all.